And do you think he's understood as a socialist writer? I mean, I asked that question for a reason, because I looked at the Wikipedia reference to him, which actually ourselves in the Raymond Williams Foundation, we're currently looking to see if we can improve it. And I'm sure I'd be really interested in your views on this. But it describes him as a Marxist writer and philosopher. I think that's how it's described, all the words to that effect.
He did join the Communist Party at one time, but he didn't stay very long there. I do recollect him being asked what his politics were. Perhaps this was a family discussion. He said, well, he was basically an anarcho-syndicalist.
Yeah. I've
really quite in opposition to Marxism by that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so he'd obviously evolved tremendously in that respect.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. When he could see things, he could always see the Soviet Union and China as doing positive things. I think he sort of wondered what was going to come out of the Cultural Revolution, which a lot of people think is sort of what on earth is that at the time going on here. The interesting thing, which is now forgotten, is there appears to have been absolutely no anti-Mao movement in mainland China. Nobody could think in those terms, apparently. In fact, it's interesting with saying, looking back, none of the people who are now doing Mao claim it. Anyway, it was interesting to see what might happen, and you could say from a sort of rather anarchist view, it might seem positive. It's another interesting thing if you look at Ursula Le Guin, the dispossessed. If you think that might have been somebody who was at the time impressed by Mao's China, because Odo, Mao, sort of similarity. Anyway, that was it was a question of trying to make more politics, and there was the whole thing of the Made in Manifesto, trying to get a new vision.
Yes, I mean, I think Raymond always had his own attitudes to these things, and never really hewed to anybody else's particular party line.
Yeah, I mean, that's a remarkable achievement, though, isn't it? I mean, he does come over as being remarkably self-possessed or self-contained in some way. I obviously didn't know him, and and don't have your connection with him in many ways, but he's been incredibly important to me, because I think partly understanding that link between culture and community and expressing it so beautifully.
Yes, as I say, the only time I heard him actually sort of be very positive about a leading political figure was this full-size picture of Harold Wilson. But even then, he was quite a skeptic about Harold Wilson, about how he had resigned at the time that Nye Bevan did and all that sort of history. So, yeah, I felt he never really hewed to any particular party line or overly admired any particular political figures. I think he was skeptical about all of them as seekers after power as much as was.
Well, with that as a Communist Party, the point was at the time, the British government was if anything pro-fascist. It was certainly, I think, here to get away with a lot of things, and it's often forgotten that Churchill was a great enthusiast to the end for Mussolini until it actually came to the war. And he's actually said that these actually have supported, if it had been necessary, they've supported
all that Stalinism and so forth. It led to disillusion amongst those people who thought for themselves, I guess.
Of course.
We had contact with people in Eastern Europe and even Russia who sort of were trying to change things. The thing that was particularly frustrated in Czechoslovakia '68, which was probably could easily have gone the same way China did after Mao, that there was keeping a lot of the structures and moderating things. Anyway, there was a hope for it.
And I remember him supporting people like Rudi Deutschke when he got shot, and then various people got together and got him over to Cambridge, and and I certainly remember meeting Rudi Deutschke briefly.
That's awesome.
And then things like the Garden House riot.
What was that,
Cambridge.
Ederyn? Sorry, I don't know what that was.
It's a rather posh hotel in Cambridge, I think it's called Garden House, and they were having a Greek celebration dinner or something at the time when the junta, the colonels, were in power in Greece, and a lot of the students felt aggrieved about that, and there was a demonstration which then turned somewhat rowdy, and some students got arrested. And I recall Raymond, one of them was one of Raymond's students, so I recall him talking about going to visit this guy in prison. So he would certainly one of the stronger supporters of the kind of student revolution in its own small way in Cambridge,
Yeah,
which I think the Garden House riot was probably the high point.
the pinnacle.
That people painted slogans about Mandela. I think I recall the people. Yeah, that was one though. That's probably, if that's a forgotten incident, you certainly should be written up. I don't know if the because we're never particularly involved with the anti-apartheid, but there was some students who were helping students who I don't know exactly what they were, risked possibly expulsion.
So, I think at that time.
Yes, and also, sorry, that was definitely involved. Is also The Colours of a New Day, a short story where he imagines someone, the time of this actual incident of people writing on the wall, they're doing a thing about this Balthazar's feast with the writing on the wall, and it's sort of suddenly seeing the analogy. I think that's entirely invented.
Well, I can tell you a bit more. There were two students, both friends of mine, who went out late one night and wrote "Free Mandela" on the wall of King's College Chapel.
Which is quite desecration in Cambridge terms. King's College Chapel.
You couldn't easily remove paint in those days, and it was there for a long time. They were both tried, and they both, in fact, were sent down for a bit, but not permanently. And Raymond did, in fact, speak up for them at the trial.
Did he? That's